one of the biggest complaints for managers of Gen Z employees is they're kind of entitled or out of touch with what they deserve in terms of like promotions and rates, and they're asking for the world and they're not delivering kind of on the basics. So where does that play in, or how would you navigate that?
First of all, just even in the interview process, like you can never give enough information. And I think a lot of the times what we're seeing now too, and I promise this will connect, is we're seeing a lot of Gen Zers starting jobs and then leaving immediately. Well, they're sold a lie. You and I have probably been sold a lie before, right? You go into this interview and you're like, oh, it's all like roses and, like butterflies, and it's so lovely here, and my job is going to be so strategic. And then you get in the door and it's like, oh, your job's actually extremely tactical and requires no brain power. And it's like, okay, then tell them that. One of the bosses I had, one of the things I really appreciated is she would never sell anybody a lie. Like when we went into a meeting, when we went into an interview, she'd be like, listen, this job is like 85% like data entry, tactical, and then you work your way up. And I was like, wow, what a breath of fresh air. That's not what I was sold. I took the job and I worked my way up. I probably would have taken the job anyway, but I think it would have helped to level set expectations. And so I think doing that in interviews, a lot of the times people are like, they left immediately. And I'm like, well, did you sell them a lie? I mean, not in those words, but like, did you sell them a lie? Did you tell them something that's like not really feasible? Is that not what the job actually looked like? They don't care. This generation, you have to remember, they grew up with optionality, right? Like types of phones, types of dating apps, right? It's like, how many dating apps can we list off the top of our head right now? Probably at least 5. Optionality everywhere. Streaming services, what they want to watch, when they want to watch. It's no different with jobs. They know that they are a needed generation. So we've got boomers exiting. They were a huge generation. Now we've got a gap in the workforce. They have optionality. They do not have to stay at your company. And because of that too, they don't care about resume optics, right? It's like you went into a job, you were sold a lie. You're like, oh my God, this is so not what I thought it was going to be. It's like, oh, but my resume will say that I'm jumping around. So like I have to stay for at least a year, right? And I remember when I was like, called my parents once, they were like, how can you leave? You'll never get another job. I'm like, I've been here 4 years. Like, that's a really long time actually for like being in like tech. I had a lot of other friends who had jumped every year and a half. So they have this optionality. They're not scared of resume optics. They're needed. So it's like, you're not doing yourself any favor by filling that rec that's going to be empty in 6 months. And so one of the things I always tell people is like, be as honest and forthcoming as you can in the interview process, both about the roles, but also just about the expectations. A lot of times people are like, oh, Gen Z, they want to be the CEO. It's like, okay, well, here's the other thing. This is a Y generation. They've had the answers to everything or the access to everything in the palm of their hands. So if you do not fill in the gaps for them, they are going to fill them in themselves. And once they do that, you and I both know it's very hard to course correct.